When John White sailed away from Roanoke Island in 1587, he believed he was leaving behind a fragile but living community. He could not have imagined that 3 years later, he would return to silence. In that silence, speculation began, and with it, for centuries of questions. From the very first search parties, explorers tried to follow the single word carved into the wooden post, Croton, hoping it would lead them to the missing settlers. White never made it there, but later voyagers, driven by curiosity or guilt, tried to retrace his route. None found a living trace of the colony he had founded. What they did find were fragments, broken pottery, remnants of weapons, faint signs of English tools mixed with native artifacts. Clues, perhaps, but never conclusions. As the decades passed, one theory began to dominate the early reports. Conflict. To some, it was the only explanation that made sense. The English had arrived uninvited on land that already belonged to others. Relations with local tribes had soured. White himself had documented tension and mistrust before he left. Some historians believe that after his departure, desperation for food and resources turned minor disputes into fatal encounters. Archaeologists have since uncovered evidence of fortifications hastily built on the island, wooden palisades, and trenches that seemed defensive in nature. But if there had been violence, where were the remains? No mass graves, no burned structures, no final signs of battle. Another possibility was even more tragic: starvation and disease. The settlers may simply have run out of food. They had limited crops, poor soil, and little experience with a harsh coastal climate. Their livestock had been lost or eaten. If famine came, the settlers could have tried to sail away on makeshift rafts in search of safer land. Storms were frequent along the Carolina coast. If they had launched small boats, few would have survived the waves. But the sea keeps its secrets, and no wrecks from that period have ever been found near Roanoke. Still, there are accounts that suggest some may have survived, at least for a time. In 1607, when the Jamestown colony was founded 2 decades later, several native tribes told English settlers of white people who lived among them farther inland. Some descriptions even mentioned clothing and objects that matched those used by the Roanoke colonists. It was a tantalizing lead, but repeated expeditions failed to locate these rumored survivors. Each journey ended in confusion, mistranslation, or the slow loss of evidence over time. For centuries, the most accepted theory has been assimilation, that the Roanoke colonists joined the Croton people, living and intermarrying with them, their English identities slowly fading into a shared culture. It is a peaceful answer, one that turns tragedy into survival. Yet the evidence remains fragile. Language studies have found only faint traces of English influence in native dialects. Artifacts uncovered on Hatteras Island, the home of the Croton, include a few items of possible English origin, but nothing that confirms a mass migration. For every piece that suggests unity, another raises doubt. And then there are the darker stories. Accounts whispered in early colonial settlements told of massacre, betrayal, and revenge. Spanish privateers, sailing north from Florida, were known to attack English outposts. Some historians believe they may have reached Roanoke, killing the settlers to send a warning to England. But no Spanish record ever claimed responsibility. And while these raids were brutal, they rarely left a settlement completely erased. Here, there was only absence. Among the Algonquian-speaking tribes of the region, tales were passed down of a cursed place, an island where strange lights moved through the trees and voices called from the wind. Some native accounts, centuries later, told of sickness that followed the arrival of the English, a blight that withered crops and darkened the sky. To the tribes, Roanoke was remembered not as a colony, but as a wound. To historians, those accounts echo the fear that something far older than either culture might have touched the island. When 19th century explorers began to revisit the site, they found that even the land itself seemed to have changed. Shorelines had shifted. Parts of the original settlement had been claimed by the sea. Whatever evidence once existed may now lie buried beneath water and sand. Then came the 20th century, and with it, a new generation of investigators armed with science. Archaeologists returned to Roanoke and to nearby Hatteras Island. They dug carefully through layers of soil, searching for any link to the lost colony. They found small items, a signet ring engraved with a lion, fragments of pottery decorated in English style, shards of blue glass that could have come from a 16th century bottle. Each discovery reignited public fascination, but none offered closure. The artifacts might belong to the settlers, or they might have been traded later between tribes. The line between proof and coincidence blurred with every find. In 2015, researchers using modern mapping technology identified 2 new sites marked on an original 16th century map drawn by John White himself. Beneath a patch of paper that had been pasted over the map, they found a faint outline of a fort symbol, possibly a secret note from White, hidden even from his sponsors in England. Excavations near that location revealed European tools and fragments consistent with late 16th century settlement. It was the strongest clue in centuries, suggesting the colonists may have moved inland, splitting into smaller groups to survive. Yet, as before, the evidence was incomplete. No graves, no personal items bearing names, nothing that could say this was them. Each generation that studied Roanoke added new theories, and each ended with the same silence. The story became more than history. It became legend, a mirror reflecting our fascination with disappearance itself. We imagine the fear of those final moments, the decision to carve a single word into wood, the hurried gathering of possessions, the sound of waves in the distance. Perhaps they believed they were saving themselves. Perhaps they believed they would be found. 400 years later, we are still searching. Every clue brings us closer, yet the truth seems to recede like the tide. The mystery of Roanoke is not just about what happened. It is about how easily human lives can vanish into the folds of time, leaving behind only traces and questions. Narrator: the lost colony may never reveal its full story. But as new technology peers deeper into the soil and the sea, another chapter is beginning. In Part 3, we follow the modern investigations and the haunting discoveries that suggest the lost settlers of Roanoke might not be lost after all.